16 minutes past 9 Central African time. Still tuned in to News and Views. Myself, Zamokuhle Moloi. Now, to a story that's very, very concerning. South African students who travel to Germany on what is supposed to be a fully funded scholarship find themselves in a lot of trouble and uncertainty. The Department of Higher Education and Training's Funda Germany scholarship was meant to cover key costs for students studying abroad in Germany specifically, including administration, health insurance, and monthly living allowances. But students say they've been left out of pocket, with some claiming that delayed or incomplete payments have actually affected their ability to access university systems and complete their academic work. One student, Zamokuhle Moloi, not their real name, it's an alias name, is studying at Constructor University in Bremen. Zamokuhle says students have faced payment problems since the beginning of the 2025 academic year, and some of the financial commitments have unfortunately had to be covered from their own pockets. And you can just imagine someone who's in South Africa went to a foreign country in hopes that they'll get a fully funded scholarship, now ultimately having to fund it from their own pockets. And yeah, it raises very, very, I think, concerning questions of how this scholarship actually works. Apparently, students were supposed to receive around 150 euros, which they say simply not enough to meet the cost of living in Germany, which I think we would all agree. And then there's a particularly worrying issue involving health insurance. Countries like Germany, to be able to reside there as a migrant or someone that's there on a student visa, require having health insurance, and that also hasn't been taken care of. So we're going to be looking at depth into the story and trying to understand how has it affected some of the students that are studying in Germany at this point. And as I mentioned, we'll be speaking to Zamokuhle Moloi. That's an alias name, just to protect their identity so that they're not targeted. That's the name that we're going to be giving our guest this morning, and they're joining us from Germany. Zamokuhle, good morning. Thank you so much for chatting to us on News and Views. We appreciate you giving us your time.
Good morning, Silaelo. Can you hear me clearly?
Loud and clear, loud and clear.
Thank you so much. And I must say, I'm still in South Africa, but some
Okay.
people have already left as per the contract. Yes.
All right. No, thank you for clearing that up. I want to kickstart the conversation with maybe you giving us an insight on
Mhm,
the genesis of the story,
mhm,
and maybe a bit of background on what
mhm.
the scholarship was all about and what were you promised when you accepted it.
Definitely. So, in essence, the former Minister of Higher Education and Training, that is a South African government, that is Dr. Zamokuhle, she advertised, not necessarily from her personal social media account, but a scholarship that is called DHET, the acronym for Department of Higher Education and Training. Funda Germany was advertised. So the source synopsis was it was a fully funded scholarship that covers your tuition fees, your accommodation, your meal plans, as well as laptops coverage. And also, there's a monthly living allowance, otherwise known as a stipend. So, students across the South African landscape, they applied from different walks of life. And we were contacted because I remember I got admission from the institution first, and I was admitted for a preparatory course cited as International Foundation Year. So after that, we had numerous info sessions with the Department of Higher Education and Training, where they were so much clear that they're not funding International Foundation Year. Then in June of 2025, I got an email that I must fill in a Microsoft form about the interview date that I'm available on because they had a time frame within those dates. Long and short, had the interview, got awarded the scholarship on merit to start my international foundation year. Now, Silaelo, to place you on par within this, there are people enrolled for the PhD, there are people enrolled for the master's degree, there are people enrolled for the bachelor's degree. And I must clarify for you, the Department of Higher Education and Training has a cluster or otherwise a division that is cited as International Scholarships Division. So this is an organ within the body, right? So the
Mm,
organ that is the International Scholarships Division is the one that is responsible for the administration, the facilitation, the finances, etc. Obviously, it's under the hub or the umbrella of the Department of Higher Education and Training. So long and short, Our cohort was the highest cohort ever. We was about 100
mm,
and plus, including the masters as well as the bachelors. So before we left for South Africa, when it was supposed to be August, we had delayed issues of our departure. I remember I landed in Bremen, that is the city where the campus is situated, on the 25th of September. Yet my academic commencement was on the 1st. Mind you, Silaelo, this institution is not hybrid enough. My particular preparatory course was in person, and it
mm,
wasn't offering hybrid classes. If anything, it was hosting a class in person and broadcasting it to me through Microsoft Teams. So by virtue of default, it's not an online class like how your VIT is doing nowadays, your UNISA is doing. If anything, it's more of a broadcasting, like how people are watching you right now, broadcasting a studio session to people that are with you in person, like how would be having this interview in person. Meaning, I'm not really engaged by the lecturers themselves. Apparently, it's not the fault of the institution because we're just part of the parcel. And also,
mm,
do be aware that the German government was not involved in the administration of this because this is a private university. So already, Slayel, your tax-paying money is contributing to students that are studying at a private university. Think of your Eduvo, your
mm,
Vega, your
mm,
Menkosa, etc. We are studying in a private university in a first world country, paying in euros through our parents' tax-paying money. When I say our parents, I'm not referring to my biological parents only. I'm talking about every South African that is contributing to tax, where the South African revenue system is taking so much from you guys. Long and short, we were late because of the issues of the visas. Visa were not rejected, but the appointments were acquired late. I did my visa at the embassy in Pretoria, and they went through my contract and they accepted me. But here's an interesting part. Students that were residing in the Western Cape, because there's a consulate in Cape Town for the German government, not the embassy, consulate that also facilitates the visa applications. It was rejecting students, Lael, on the basis that the 150, that is a 150 euros, is not enough as a monthly allowance for the cost of living in Germany, which is now raising a very, very interesting eyebrow. Because why, in the first place, was the embassy in Pretoria approving us on the basis of the contract when it articulated on the contract that we're going to be receiving a stipend, otherwise known as a monthly allowance of 150 euros? But when we got there, Silayelo, we adapted and assimilated, the resilience of South Africans. But what I want to tell you that even this amount was not enough because it was accompanied by a what we call an administration fee that is cited as a settlement allowance, which is about
mm,
16,000 rand. So the net in total was about 32,000. And if I tell you that when we got there, we realized that the institution does not have computer facilities.
mm,
Think of your personal computer being the one that is responsible for you. Now, amongst the plethora slide, which gets more interesting, we have software development students, we have computer sciences students. Now, it's interesting because my core degree is your earth and enviro. I don't even need coding that much because we're in a latter day where the world is assimilating to digitalization. So now
mm,
you have to use the personal computers. Now, let us place each other on par here. The socio-economic background for each and every one of us is not the same. Some people, they had personal computers that their parents had even bought them anew. Some people were using their previous computers, like in Zamokhule's case, that is me. Some people did not own personal computers. Some of them were too stale, and the condition that they were in were not okay. And now we had reiterated at the orientation about the laptops, inquired. And then the director that is of the DHET Funda Germany under the International Scholarships Division, Dr. Moyo, he kept on saying we're not receiving laptops, but we said your advertisement and the initial contracts, because the contracts were changed. Some
mm,
things were raised on the new contract that we were told to sign, and they were sent digitally. The ones that we were given physically at the orientation that was hosted in Pretoria in August had indicated that we would be receiving laptops. This was a fully funded scholarship according to the public relations, to the marketing and the endorsements on the flyer. But just to reiterate, and stay you on the same in context within the laptop issues. So by virtue of default, you are studying coding, you need to be aligned, you will buy a new laptop. Mind you, you are using South African rands, buying in
mm.
a country like Germany. It could even be the HP, the Lenovo's, the Dells. It does not matter, right? Okay.
Entry level
Yes,
laptop. Yeah.
yes, yes. But you buy in euros, so already plus minus 12,000 is gone from your 32. Mind
Sure.
you, your airline, it could have been a Lufthansa or Turkish, it restricts you with the luggage, so you can't pack everything. And let me just reiterate, at the orientation, they placed an emphasis because we had thematic sessions that were focused to the countries. Because this is a plethora of scholarships, but ours, however, is fully funded by the South African government. There is no facilitation of finances that the German government is responsible for. Hence, it's
mm,
DHET, Funda Germany Scholarship to a private university using taxpayers' money. But where I want to go is that the jacket, the warm clothing, because it snows, because come on, it's a European country, the climate.
mm,
We were told not to pack much because we will be receiving an allowance to be buying this clothing. But if I tell you that by the time it was November, people were left with 5,000 in their South African accounts, only the Zamokuhles that had enough savings because they've been exposed to the working space, for example, or the Janets whose mummies gave them monies. But what about the Lindoguhle who did not have anything coming from a background like Soshanguve, where even at home, he's the beacon of hope? Guys, we need to be realistic here.
mm,
So the money was not enough from day one. It was not sufficient because we had to pay for the insurance because we need insurance. And mind you, let me point this out, Slaelo. The insurance service provider TK is in partnership with the university. So they're in partnership with Constructor University. TK is the acronym. In full, it's a German term, technical something in English. I just can't pronounce it properly. So this
mm,
institution is in partnership. It's a private university, and it is in partnership. And also, we were coerced. We were coerced to sign up with the TK insurance service provider. Ironically, in 2026, we are receiving emails now. DHET, Funda Germany International Scholarships Division, is getting in partnership with TK,
mm,
lying on the same bed with the same service provider that deprived us of accessing our Moodle on campus net that was responsible for our assignments. Where the lecturers were empathizing, but they can't do anything because they are not responsible for the system. As I'm speaking with you, more than 3 students, I think about 5 that I know of, they are currently told they are being defunded from the scholarship because they were allocated a 0% on their assignment, affecting the final mark. You know how university structure
mm,
works. You get a year mark, that is a course mark, you get an examination mark. Because we were owing insurance. I got 800 and something in euros. I was supposed to get 1,000 and something. And this is by the default of Germany, because if you're under the age of 30, which I am, you can't use a private service provider. You need to use a public insurance, which was more expensive. And we resorted to TK because they have an office at the institution, at the campus. They are stationed at the campus, and you can liaise and engage with them in person.
mm,
From April 2026, my shortfall is never mitigated for. Many other students use their personal finances. Some it was 200 euro, some it was 300 euro, some it was more because you were basing it on how much you owing the TK service provider. We received
sure,
email, and I want to go where it's interesting. Slaelo. The deputy director, Kia, her name is Kia, I think it's Kia Leboga in full, Letlahu, I welcome correction. She came in person as a site visit to collect data and information. Let me tell you something interesting. She gaslit us when we were expressing our grievances about the shortfall of the insurance. And I must explain to you that Tshwane University of Technology is also involved in facilitating this, as well as FNB South Africa as the bank. But when it reflects on our bank statements, it's Tshwane University of Technology. So from when we arrived, we've been struggling. And I want to tell you something that will break everyone's heart. Anyone with a heart that will be broken. So in
mm,
Germany, they have what we call a P fund. It's like P with an FAND. It's like a fund, if you can pronounce it, without really, really breaking it down, because it's a German term. In essence,
mm,
it's whereby you're taking cans, you're taking bottles that are plastic, and you're using them on a machine that can count towards European cents. So each can is 25 cents. Each plastic bottle is also 25 cents. That is your Coca-Cola bottle. So what
mm,
students were now resorting to at the dining hall with their fixation style was collecting these things as much to mitigate
sure,
for them. Now, the shaming part that I want to tell you is that a student in master's degree who's very well off financially as well, was so grieved when he witnessed at our railway station within Bremen, the city, another student from the bin picking up a can, picking up a plastic bottle.
mm,
What stripping of dignity is this? Make it make sense.
sure, sure.
What stripping of dignity is this when we are taking cans from the bin as if, yes, waste picking is nothing to be ashamed for. I'm privy
Mm,
to the circular economy, and there's a reason why even the German government is doing this to mitigate. But what's stripping of dignity for Africa? And the interesting part, I want to tell you, I want to go somewhere. We were also in the prospect of receiving jackets and warm clothing towards November and December. The reason being, because people did not have money to buy new clothing. Let me tell you now about this system for homeless people. Jackets that are donated to charity cases. We are sent by a South African government. Good PR, good advertising with your money as a taxpayer to study abroad. But we were shamed, stripped of our dignity, and more than anything, the disrespect to South Africa.
Sure, very, very
Here we
concerning.
are now. We are still
I think
facing
we're going to have to park it for now. I think this is a story that we need to continue to follow through because there's so much to it. There are many layers to it. I think that
definitely. There
the
are layers.
overarching
Yeah.
one being why are South Africans being funded to go to a private institution of learning, of higher learning in a foreign country when there are not even bursaries from government to fund people to go to private institutions internally in South Africa itself.
Yes.
So I think we'll follow this conversation, to the latter. We'll try and get authorities and hopefully we'll try and get you back on air. But unfortunately, we have run out of time. But
I
we'll
fully
definitely
follow.
get back up again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Zamokuhle. Really appreciate
Thank you so much, Laelo. This was very meaningful. I highly appreciate.
Sure. Yeah, we're going to leave it there for now, for the sake of time. But as I mentioned, this is a story that we'll continue to follow, and hopefully we'll get the relevant authorities to respond to some of the allegations that have been made here. Going to take a quick break. We'll be back with you after this.